I never thought our 25th anniversary would be the beginning of the end. 25 years together. A quarter-century of shared memories, struggles, and dreams, all leading to what was supposed to be the most luxurious vacation of our lives. A Caribbean cruise I had spent months planning, paid for entirely from my professor's salary savings. Victor smiled at me from the window of our suite, the same smile that had made me fall for him in the university library 2.5 decades ago. "It's beautiful, Marianne," he said, his eyes reflecting the ocean below. And it was. Our suite was decorated with fresh flowers, champagne, and sunlight. I gently unpacked our wedding photo, two young people beaming with hope. Looking at it now, I noticed how time had left more lines on my face than on his. Still, it felt like a celebration. "To the next 25 years, Victor said, raising his glass. I smiled and clinked mine against his. "I have something for you," I told him, handing over a small, hand-stitched bookmark, his favorite poem embroidered between lectures and late nights. He gave me a box in return. Inside, an elegant watch, exactly my style. I gasped. But when I turned it over, the engraving stopped my breath cold. "To R.M., with love, V." Not M.W. Not my initials. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. "Victor, these initials." My voice was steady, but my hands weren't. "Oh, that," he faltered, just for a moment. "Must be a mistake from the shop. But don't they usually confirm these special orders?" I pressed, unable to ignore the strange feeling settling in my stomach. His expression clouded briefly. "Completely useless store. I'll have it redone as soon as we get back." His tone was unusually sharp as he drained his wine in one gulp. There was something in the way he avoided my eyes. A small crack appeared between us, but I told myself it was nothing. Just a small mistake. That's all it was supposed to be. But it was the first hairline fracture in the foundation of my 25 years. That evening, we attended the welcome dinner. Victor chatted amicably with the couple across from us, he'd always been the social one. I smiled and nodded, but couldn't shake the strange feeling since the watch incident. The next day was picture perfect. Breakfast on the deck, a tour of the ship, dancing under the stars. Victor held me close, whispering compliments about how beautiful I looked. By the second evening, however, something felt off. We were just about to enter the theater for the night's show when Victor patted his pockets. "I need to go back to the room." "Forgot my phone," he said casually. "I'll come with you," I offered. "No, no. Save our seats." "I'll be right back," he insisted. 40 minutes later, with the show half finished, he still hadn't returned. I sat alone, surrounded by couples, feeling conspicuously abandoned as performers sang about everlasting love. When I returned to our stateroom, Victor was lying on the bed, scrolling through his phone. "What happened?" "You never came back," I asked, trying to keep accusation out of my voice. Sorry about that. Got a bit of a headache and decided to lie down." "Must have dozed off," he explained with such natural ease that I almost believed him. Almost. But on the bedside table sat an empty whiskey glass, and his body smelled of shower gel, as if he'd just bathed. Neither aligned with a sudden headache and impromptu nap. That night, lying beside him in the dark, I felt a small seed of doubt take root. Was his explanation true? The question snagged in the corner of my mind like a loose thread that, if pulled, might unravel everything. But I believed that 25 years of trust couldn't be undone by one inconsistency. The next morning, I noticed several troubling patterns. He checked his phone constantly, excusing himself multiple times. Even more strangely, he canceled our planned poolside relaxation time. Got an urgent conference call about a client situation. Even on vacation, some matters can't wait, he explained. Your work is important. I'll just read my book, I said understandingly, but inside, questions swirled. Wasn't his business motto completely offline during vacations? That afternoon, while reading on the deck, I spotted Victor on the opposite side of the ship. He was talking with someone, a woman. They were laughing, engaged in what appeared to be a serious conversation. The distance was too great to make out her face, but Victor's body language didn't suggest a chance encounter. There was familiarity there. At dinner that evening, I decided to probe gently. How was your day? Did the conference call go well? I asked. Yes, all sorted, he replied, briefly averting his eyes. How was yours? Quiet. Read my book, rested on the deck. I hesitated. I saw you on the other side of the ship. You seemed to be talking with someone. Victor's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Ah, that was the cruise director. I was asking about tomorrow's port of call, he explained smoothly. I see. I nodded, pretending to accept his answer. But something didn't add up. The cruise director was a man. I'd met him during orientation. Only the sound of the waiter refilling our wine glasses broke the heavy silence. For the first time in 25 years of marriage, I felt a genuine distrust toward my husband. It was still just a seed, but I could feel it growing rapidly. That night, after Victor had fallen asleep, I found myself staring at his suitcase across the room. Should I look inside? I had never done such a thing before. Our relationship was built on a trust, or so I had always believed. Yet I could feel that foundation cracking beneath me. In the end, I didn't reach for the suitcase. I still wanted to believe in him. But sleep eluded me as I stared at the ceiling, listening to his breathing beside me. The ship swayed gently in the Caribbean waters, a subtle rocking that usually lulled me to sleep. Tonight, it felt like a warning, telling me that nothing is ever as stable as it seems. I closed my eyes and tried to silence the questions multiplying in my mind. Tomorrow would be a new day. Perhaps everything would make sense in the light of the Caribbean sun. But deep down, I knew that the first cracks had already appeared in the foundation of my marriage, and no amount of sunshine could hide them now. The watch with another woman's initials sat in its box on the dresser, a silent harbinger of truths I wasn't yet ready to face. Growing suspicions. Morning arrived with a gentle sea breeze. I woke to find the bed beside me already empty. Victor's running shoes were gone too, he often went jogging at dawn. I stretched and stepped onto our private balcony, trying to shake off yesterday's uneasiness. The endless blue horizon usually calmed my mind, but today, even this vast expanse couldn't ease the knot in my stomach since discovering those initials on the watch. When Victor returned, sweaty but smiling, I had already dressed and ordered room service breakfast. You're up early, he said, towel in hand. Couldn't sleep well, I admitted. He paused, studying my face. Everything okay? I nodded while pouring coffee. Looking forward to today's port. St. Thomas, right. Actually, I was thinking of skipping the island tour today. I looked up in surprise. This St. Thomas tour had been his idea. He'd been so enthusiastic about seeing the historical sites together. Skip it? Why? Not feeling great. Might have overdone the run. You should go without me. I stirred my coffee slowly. But you were the one who wanted to do this together. Isn't this anniversary trip about spending time with each other? He sighed, leaning against the doorframe. For a moment, he looked annoyed, but the expression vanished quickly. You're right. I'll come along. But there was no enthusiasm in his voice, none of the excitement he'd shown when planning this excursion weeks ago. Throughout breakfast, he checked his phone repeatedly, typing quick responses between bites. His fingers moved rapidly across the screen, and occasionally his lips would twitch upward at whatever message he was reading. Work? I asked casually. Oh, yeah. Johnson account. Never sleeps. But Victor's company policy was strict about vacation disconnection. He'd often bragged about how they encouraged employees to fully unplug during time off. Even on the island, Victor was physically present but mentally elsewhere. While I marveled at the colorful colonial architecture, he frequently checked his watch and scanned the crowds as if looking for someone. When I stopped at a small souvenir shop, he immediately said, "I'll wait outside. Need to make a call." Through the window, I watched him. He wasn't on a call, he was intensely typing messages, his face tense and focused. Occasionally he would look up, surveying the street with purpose. When I emerged from the shop 15 minutes later, he quickly pocketed his phone and flashed that smile, the one that suddenly seemed rehearsed. That evening, we attended the captain's dinner. I'd chosen my best dress, a navy blue sheath that Victor had always liked. He showed a hint of tenderness during dinner, reaching across the table to hold my hand. For just a moment, I thought perhaps my suspicions were unfounded. "You look beautiful tonight," he said, his eyes warm in the candlelight. "Thank you. It's nice to dress up occasionally. We rarely do at home. Maybe you should try wearing something more alluring sometime," Victor said with a playful laugh. I tried to smile, but felt a small sting in my chest. After 25 years together, was I no longer alluring to him? As dessert arrived, his phone vibrated on the table. He glanced at it, his expression subtly shifting. "Just need to use the restroom," he said. He didn't return for 20 minutes. I sat alone at our anniversary celebration table, awkwardly making small talk with the couple seated next to us, who kept glancing at the empty chair with poorly disguised curiosity. When he finally came back, his shirt collar was slightly disheveled, and I noticed the scent of perfume wafting from him, definitely not mine. A floral fragrance, expensive and distinctive. My heart sank like a stone in deep water. "Sorry about that," he said. "Ran into Parker from the New York office. Couldn't get away." I nodded, not trusting my voice. There was no Parker in the New York office. I had attended enough company functions over 25 years to know his colleagues by name. The elaborate chocolate dessert before me suddenly held no appeal. That night, sleep evaded me. Victor's quiet breathing filled our cabin as I stared at the ceiling. The gentle rocking of the ship, which had lulled me to sleep on previous nights, now felt like a mocking reminder of my unsteady reality. Around 2 a.m., I silently slipped out of bed and picked up his phone from the nightstand. The weight of it felt strange in my hand, this small device that might contain the truth I both feared and needed. I had never invaded his privacy before. In 25 years of marriage, I had never once checked his messages or emails. I had built my life on the bedrock of trust, believing that whatever challenges came our way, we would face them honestly together. But faced with so much circumstantial evidence, I could no longer ignore my suspicions. It was locked, of course. I gently returned it and went back to bed, my mind in turmoil. What had happened to us? When had the solid ground of our marriage turned to shifting sand beneath my feet? As I lay there in the dark, memories flooded through me, our wedding day in the university chapel, the cramped first apartment, celebrating his first promotion with cheap champagne, him bringing me soup when I had bronchitis. 25 years of building a life together. Had it all been a mirage? Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow I would follow him. I would find the truth, whatever it might be. Dawn arrived with gray skies that matched my mood perfectly. Victor kissed my forehead and said, "Going for my morning run," before slipping out the door. This time, I didn't go back to bed. I quickly dressed and followed him at a distance. He didn't head toward the running track. Instead, he went straight to the ship's cafe, ordered coffee, and sat checking his watch repeatedly. 10 minutes later, she appeared. I froze behind a decorative column, my heart hammering against my ribs. The woman was elegant, composed, early 50s with long, wavy dark hair. Something about her seemed familiar. When she smiled, a memory surfaced from deep within my mind. An old photograph from university days. One that had sat on Victor's dresser. Rachel Montgomery, his ex-wife. The woman he'd claimed he hadn't spoken to in over 20 years. Victor stood immediately upon seeing her, kissing her cheek. Their body language told me everything. The familiar gestures, the relaxed laughter, the way they leaned toward each other, this was no recent reconnection. After they left the cafe, I followed at a distance. They went to the shopping deck where Victor guided her into a high-end jewelry store. Through the glass, I watched him select a diamond bracelet and fasten it around her wrist. My anniversary gift had been that watch. The initials RM. On the watch, everything connected now. I continued following them to an upper deck where they found a secluded spot. What I witnessed next shattered my heart completely. Victor embraced Rachel and kissed her deeply. 25 years of marriage, crumbling with a single kiss. I must have made a sound. They suddenly pulled apart and turned toward me. Our eyes met across the deck. The color drained from Victor's face. Marianne. I didn't run. I didn't scream. I just stood there, feeling 25 years of memories dissolving beneath my feet like sand. How long? My voice sounded cold, like it belonged to someone else. Rachel stepped back, covering her mouth with her hand. This isn't what Victor began. Stop, I cut him off. Just tell me how long. He swallowed hard. Rachel and I started communicating again about a year ago. Just emails at first. A year, the word tasted bitter. So while I was planning our anniversary cruise, you were planning this? I never meant to hurt you, he said. A laugh escaped me. A dry, painful laugh. But here we are. She's attractive as a woman. You're not. Those words pierced my chest like a knife. My face felt frozen. Rachel spoke up. Victor told me the divorce was already settled. That this cruise was a final trip before it was finalized. I looked at Rachel silently. She averted her gaze, gripping her bag strapped tightly. She must have known about me. Yet she came anyway. Is that what you told her? I asked. The distress in Rachel's eyes told me everything. I need some time, Victor said weakly. Take all the time you want, I replied, my voice calmer than I expected. In fact, take the rest of the cruise. I won't be coming back to that room. I turned and walked away. Though my legs felt like they might collapse, somehow my body moved forward. Back in the cabin, I began packing. Tears blurred my vision. A knock at the door startled me. It wasn't Victor. It was an older woman in uniform. Mrs. Warrington? I'm Eleanor Hudson from Guest Relations. The front desk staff noticed you might be in distress. I need a different room, I managed to say. Eleanor looked at my tear-stained face and half-packed suitcase, then said gently, of course. Would you like some tea? After moving to a new room, a simple interior cabin, the only one available, Eleanor set down a tray with tea and sat opposite me. I don't usually do this, but I've worked on cruise ships for 30 years. Unfortunately, relationships breaking apart at sea happens. You're not the first. She lowered her eyes briefly, started to say something, then stopped. Well, I'll tell you about it another time. Pardon. There's a time for everything. I looked into her eyes. There was something there beyond mere sympathy, a kind of deep, conspiratorial pain. Would you like to talk a bit more? And somehow, I found myself telling this stranger everything. It was 25 years, I said, staring into my teacup. And now I have to spend another week on the same ship with them. Eleanor patted my hand gently. You haven't been left behind, Marianne. You've just changed course. 25 years, I repeated. My entire adult life. May I ask what you do, Marianne? I'm a professor of English literature. So you understand character arcs, then, she smiled softly. This isn't your ending. It's a plot twist. I never wanted this kind of drama in my own story. None of us do, Eleanor said. But the strongest characters aren't the ones who never face storms. They're the ones who learn to navigate through them. You know what the worst part is? I said. Not just the betrayal. It's the humiliation. Knowing they're still on this ship, probably laughing at me. Knowing he bought her that bracelet while I got a watch with her initials. My voice cracked, and tears I'd been fighting finally spilled over. Eleanor didn't rush to comfort me with empty platitudes. She simply waited, allowing me the dignity of my pain. When I could speak again, I asked, what am I supposed to do now? Hide in this tiny room for the rest of the cruise? That's entirely your choice, Eleanor said. But if I may suggest an alternative, don't give them that power. What do you mean? This ship has 16 restaurants, 5 pools, dozens of activities daily. You paid for this cruise. Why should you miss out because of their choices? Besides, she continued, there's something empowering about showing up somewhere looking your absolute best when someone expects you to be crumbled in a corner. For the first time since the confrontation, I felt something beyond pain, a tiny spark of defiance. I've never been good at spite, I admitted. Then don't think of it as spite, Eleanor smiled. Think of it as self-respect. After Eleanor left, I stood in the shower until the hot water ran cold. I let the tears come freely, knowing this might be my last chance for private grief. I thought of Victor's cruel words on the deck. She's attractive as a woman. You're not. After 25 years of building a life together, that's what it came down to? My worth as a decorative object? The rage that surged through me was almost welcome after hours of numbed shock. I dried myself off and stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back had faint lines around her eyes and mouth, evidence of a life lived, of thousands of lectures given, of students mentored, of papers published. If Victor couldn't see the beauty in that, perhaps he never truly saw me at all. I opened my suitcase and found the black dress I'd packed for the formal night still to come. I held it against me, remembering how I'd chosen it specifically because Victor had once complimented a similar style. It was time to start making choices for myself alone. There was 1 week left on this cruise. 1 week until I could return home and begin the painful process of dismantling a quarter-century marriage. But first, I needed to survive these 7 days with my dignity intact. Because while my marriage had reached its final page, my own story was far from over. Taking action. That night, there was the captain's dinner. I debated whether to attend. But why should I let this cruise be ruined for me? No one had the right to rob me of joy in my life. I chose a simple but elegant dress and left my new cabin. When I arrived, I found my table set for 2. The table meant to celebrate 25 years of marriage. A waiter approached. Is your husband joining you soon? No, he won't be coming tonight, I answered quietly. I'm alone. This table was meant for 2, but all that arrived was news of betrayal. I sipped my wine, fighting back tears. But I refused to show weakness. The next morning, I woke to stark reality. I considered disembarking at the next port. But something within me rebelled. Why should I run? I'd done nothing wrong. In the breakfast area, I spotted Victor searching for me. I chose a seat outside his line of vision. May I join you? Eleanor stood beside my table. Please, I welcomed her company. How are you feeling? Better, I admitted. I won't hide in my room. She smiled. That's the spirit. She discreetly placed a business card on the table. A friend of mine is a divorce attorney in New York. Would you like to speak with her? I stared at the card. Justine Parker, Family Law. But I haven't decided anything. Just talking is enough, Eleanor said gently. Knowledge is power, Marianne. Even if you choose forgiveness, you should know where you stand legally. After breakfast, I called Justine. Eleanor filled me in, she said. I'm so sorry this is happening. I don't even know what I'm doing, I confessed. Everything is happening so quickly. That's normal, Justine replied. But take action immediately. First, document everything. Second, check your financial accounts. Financial assets, I hadn't thought about that. That watch was expensive. The luxury jewelry, where was that money coming from? After hanging up, I logged into our joint account. I found a $25,000 transfer to an unknown account 3 days ago. With trembling hands, I dug deeper. Small withdrawals had been made throughout the past year. Amounts just below the notification threshold. In total, about $150,000 had disappeared. That evening, I ran into Victor near the library. Marianne, please. We need to talk. About what? Rachel. Or the $150,000 you've been withdrawing? His face faltered at my knowledge. That's not what it looks like, isn't it? I turned away. Please, he grabbed my arm. It was a mistake. I'll end things with Rachel. We can start over. I removed his hand. You wouldn't say that if you hadn't been caught. As I walked away, he called out. What are you going to do? I paused, looking back. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this cruise. And then, I'm taking back my life. I'm reclaiming what you fear losing most. The next day, Justine emailed me advice and documents. She had uncovered more facts. Victor had 3 offshore accounts I knew nothing about. Plus evidence of questionable transactions at his company. I began gathering evidence. At the next port, I encountered Rachel in a boutique. Our eyes met, and she approached. Marianne, I'm sorry. I thought you knew about us. Victor said your relationship was just nominal now. Did you know about the money he's been hiding? I asked. Her expression revealed everything. Money. What money? You should ask him. It seems neither of us really knew Victor. But surely you suspected a relationship with a married man wasn't just a separation story? I was deceived too. But you made a choice, I said, leaving. That afternoon, I spotted them arguing by the pool. Rachel stormed off shouting traitor, while Victor was left alone. Just then, his phone rang. He answered frantically. His face turned pale. Trouble at his company. For the first time since discovery, I felt a sense of power. The pain remained, but I was no longer just a victim. I was taking action. At dinner, Eleanor sat across from me. You look better today. The fog is starting to lift a little. Justine called. You're doing everything right. I keep thinking. Late night calls, vague trips, how did I miss so many signs? Don't blame yourself, Eleanor said firmly. Some people are skilled manipulators. What matters is what you see now, and how you act. I'll make sure he never does this again, to me or anyone else. The next morning, I spoke with Justine via video conference. I found 3 offshore accounts. They predate his reconnection with Rachel. He's been planning this for years. Years. He's been siphoning funds gradually. But he made a mistake, using company resources for transactions. That crosses into potentially illegal territory. What does that mean for me? It means leverage, Marianne. Significant leverage. Later, on the main deck, a familiar voice spoke beside me. Marianne. Rachel stood there, looking less composed. I wanted to tell you, you were right. Victor told me you were separated, that this cruise was a formality before finalizing the divorce. And the money? He claimed they were investments for our future. Now I wonder how many women he's told that to. The woman I'd once feared suddenly seemed smaller. What will you do now? I asked. Fly home from the next port. As she left, she hesitated. You deserved better. We both did. That night, despite everything, I felt strangely energized. This wasn't my ending. Just a difficult chapter. And I was about to write a surprising twist. I arranged to meet Victor in the ship's lounge, choosing a time with enough witnesses but sufficient privacy. He appeared tense as he sat across from me. Thank you for meeting me, I began calmly. Of course. Marianne, I've been thinking. I raised my hand. I'm not here for reconciliation. I'm here to discuss terms. Terms? His expression shifted from hopeful to guarded. I placed a folder on the table. I know about the offshore accounts. All 3. I know about the questionable client billing. And I have evidence of all the money you diverted from our joint accounts. His face was drained of color. How did you? How I found out doesn't matter. What matters is what happens next. I slid the folder toward him. Inside was a settlement agreement guaranteeing me half of all our assets after divorce. I want you to sign this. You can show it to your lawyer first. He leaned forward. And if I refuse? I met his gaze steadily. Then Justine will send evidence of your financial misconduct to your business partners. And to the relevant authorities. That's blackmail. I'm simply ensuring fairness, Victor. All I want is my rightful half of what we built together over 25 years. He stared at the folder. This isn't what I intended. But you made hundreds of deliberate choices to get us here. The night before we reached port, Victor slipped an envelope under my door. Inside was the agreement, signed and notarized. A handwritten note was enclosed. To Marianne. You deserved better treatment, better than me. I've signed everything as requested. The house is yours, and I've instructed the bank to transfer your fair share from all accounts. I know words mean nothing now. But I am truly sorry. Not just for the affair, but for betraying the trust of the most honest person I've ever known. Victor. I felt neither joy nor pain, only closure. The next morning, I spotted Victor and Rachel in the disembarkation queue. They weren't standing together. Rachel seemed to be deliberately keeping her distance. Eleanor appeared at my side. Ready to go home? More than ready. As we walked toward the pier, Eleanor said, I should have told you sooner, but what I was trying to tell you that day. I had a similar experience 20 years ago. On a ship. My husband and his secretary. You're kidding. Yes, I changed rooms, packed my things. But unlike you, I just cried and let it end there. Watching you, it felt like I finally got revenge for my past self. I took one last look at the ship that had witnessed the death of my marriage and the birth of my resolve. I'm actually looking forward to what comes next. 1 year later, I was pruning roses in what was now truly my home. After the divorce, I had replaced Victor's cold, modern furniture with pieces that reflected my own taste. The phone rang, my sister calling to confirm dinner. Over the past year, her support had been unwavering through the most difficult days. As I hung up, I noticed Eleanor's car pulling into my driveway. Your roses look magnificent, she said, embracing me. As do you. We sat on the patio with iced tea, catching up. Eleanor had retired from the cruise line and was enjoying her freedom. "And you?" she asked. "The sabbatical?" I nodded. "It's official. I'm taking next semester off to write my book and teach at Oxford, England." How wonderful. It was time for an adventure of my own choosing. Eleanor smiled. "Heard anything about Victor?" "Justine says he resigned after an internal investigation. And Rachel is engaged to a Florida banker." "Does it still hurt to talk about them?" "It doesn't. It's like discussing characters from a book I read long ago." After Eleanor left, I returned to my roses, inhaling their sweet fragrance. The cruise was supposed to celebrate 25 years of marriage. Instead, it became the beginning of an entirely different journey, one of self-discovery. I thought about the watch with Rachel's initials. It was tucked away in a drawer now. Perhaps I should sell it for something meaningful. My new life wasn't perfect. There were still lonely nights. But I felt a deep peace in making my own choices. That evening, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. The woman reflected back had changed, in some ways older, in others younger. Her eyes held a wisdom that could only be gained through loss and recovery. I adjusted my necklace, a simple pendant I had bought myself to mark my sabbatical, and smiled. Like the thorns on my roses, pain had become my protection. One journey had ended, another had begun. Perhaps you've experienced an unimaginable betrayal. Remember, your story doesn't end there. A new chapter can begin whenever you're ready to turn the page.